Ancient Greece is known for its incredible warriors and Herculean feats of strength and endurance. The fables and historical accounts of this ancient land are still as popular as ever today, with action-packed movie renditions like the 300, Hercules, or Clash of the Titans popping up every few years. So how did these ancient warriors attain their legendary strength and physiques? Well, this is a big question and requires a multi-video answer. But today I'd like to show you one of the more unique ancient Greek training tools and explain how it was used. That tool is the Greek haltere. Halteres were a weight training implement used by ancient Greek athletes but no longer in use today. They were shaped like a half saucer with a handle, often described as an aerodynamic semicircle made of stone and weighing anywhere between 4 and 20 pounds. We know somewhat how these implements were used, but there's still some mystery. I've seen them called ancient dumbbells and the original kettlebells in articles floating around the net. But what were they really, and were they actually used this way? Well, first let's talk about what is known for sure about their use, and then I'll speculate a little bit based off my own experience with them. We know for sure they were used in the ancient Olympic long jump competitions. However, these long jump competitions were not like the modern event. Instead of running up at full speed and jumping into a sand pit, the Greeks performed what would today be called a broad jump, standing in one spot and jumping for as far as possible without running. The halteres were held in the hands of the jumpers and swung forward with as much power as they could muster just before taking off. In this way, the momentum generated by the upper body strength would increase the distance of the jump, making the haltere broad jump a full body effort. We also know from sparse historical accounts that the ancient Greeks performed curls, hip hinges, and some type of lunge with the arms outstretched in front of the body. However, the descriptions are vague and leave a lot to the imagination. Ancient art also shows them being swung around in all sorts of strange ways, and historians are a little bit baffled as to how they were really used. So since historical records are incomplete, we have to turn towards experimentation to get further insight into their use. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find anyone making these online, so I had to create a makeshift version of my own. I bought a pair of vinyl-covered cardio hand weights, marketed for jogging and shadowboxing, and shaped them a lot more like a haltere using my angle grinder. This was awkward work and made an insane mess, but the following haltere movement geek out sessions were glorious and well worth the trouble. My haltere shaped Frankenstein weights in hand, I experimented using them like dumbbells, then like kettlebells, and finally I just started playing around with them, and here's what I found. First, they can be used with stiff, isolated movements the way a dumbbell would, but not to great effect. My halteres were only 7 pounds, and with the largest ancient haltere found only being 20 pounds, it doesn't make much sense to use them in this way, other than maybe for some warm-ups or some shoulder rehab type movements. Also, they certainly don't feel like kettlebells, though they do feel like they were meant to be used with momentum just as kettlebells are, just not quite in the same way. Whereas with kettlebells the weight is under the handle, in the haltere the weight is found around the handle in a semicircle, giving it a very different feeling in the hand. What I did find is that the curls, lunges, and hip hinges talked about by historians were almost certainly done with momentum. These weights are shaped in an aerodynamic way and they just feel right being swung through the air. I speculate that the curls were actually just the isolated curling motion found in the ancient Olympic broad jump, and that the hip hinges were also isolated from the same broad jump motion, where the halteres are swung at the side during the hip hinge, much like the kettlebell gunslinger exercise of today. It also seems likely the lunges were done in this way, not with the arms outstretched in front of the body, but by lunging in unison with the swinging halteres, so that the halteres are suspended in front of the body at the very top of the swing. I also noticed that the feel of the weight in my hand reminded me of holding a hilted sword or a shield, and that from what we know about the warlike ancient Greeks, my guess is that they used these tools during peacetime to help keep citizens trained for war, with haltere training being used to teach athletes how to manipulate the weight of these tools of war, as well as teach them how to maneuver the body around these tools quickly and efficiently by utilizing the momentum they create when swung around. Much like the way a club or a bat feels like you should swing it the second you pick it up, the haltere just gives you the feel of combat use. After much trial and error, I mostly use the halteres in hand-to-hand combat style movements and handheld weapon style movements. For instance, performing a punch motion didn't feel much like shadowboxing, but it did feel like I was shield bashing the heavy bag. And even the Greek long jump felt more like I was jumping over a creek with shield and sword in hand than an actual athletic event. My guess is these halteres were less dangerous and less costly to create than the actual weapons, and therefore a better way to train in peacetime when resources are better spent on other necessities. Anyways, that's my experience with the Greek halteres. Unfortunately, I cannot give you a link to locate your own halteres because I have not found any. The best I can do is link a few museum photos of the real thing down below, and I can also put up an Amazon link with the type of weights I use to create my own makeshift halteres. If anyone watching this has some real manufacturing know-how and wants to build some of these for yourself, leave a comment down below or DM me after you make a few and tell me how it went. I'll likely be your first customer should you choose to sell them. My experience with them was a lot of fun and it was a great workout. If you enjoyed the video today, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and definitely check back soon. I intend to do a few more videos on training techniques of the ancient world. Until next time, keep moving, my friends.